preparing. Hold on. Trying to do this before. It takes a second.
It says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Okay, it's setting up.
It says it right here. Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Okay. So our spotlight speaker this week is Michelle Abraham. Michelle is an international speaker, podcast host, and podcast producer, and author of the upcoming book, The Profitable Podcast. Michelle was just voted number 16 of the top 50 moms in podcasting by Podcast Magazine, and Business from the Heart awarded her Entrepreneur of the Year. That was really recent. That just happened. So congratulations for that. Michelle is the founder of Amplify You, and Kevin Harrington, the original shark on the hit show Shark Tank, says Amplify You is North America's top podcast management company. I'm going to stop there, Michelle, and I'm going to let you move forward. So welcome, Michelle, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jenna, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I haven't done one of these presentations since one of the very first weeks this chapter opened, so I think I was the second one to go. So it's been a while, so some of you may have seen some of these presentations, but I've added some other personal touches to it, so it's a little bit different than my normal one. So, but I do want to talk about podcasting a little bit first before I get into my why I do this. So in a world where time and attention is our most valuable assets in business, there's no other platform that even comes close to comparing to the amount of exposure and time and attention you get from your listeners as podcasting. So if we compare it to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, sorry, YouTube, I know we're on YouTube right now. We're not even close to that with podcasting. So you get 18.2 seconds on Facebook. YouTube is about 4 minutes and 20 seconds for a video watch. Instagram, you get 26 seconds. Podcasting, you get 20 minutes. That's right. So 20 minutes because people are taking you in their earbuds, which is a very intimate place to be, and they're taking you with them to do all sorts of things in their life. So they're walking their dog, they're cooking dinner, they're cleaning, maybe they're working, maybe they're picking up their kids from school and listening in the car. So really all sorts of different things that you can do. So which is why I love podcasting. The second thing that's super important right now about podcasting is that Google is new to the game, and it's now picking up some new analytics and ways that you can watch your analytics on your show, but also that it's also doing the SEO part of your podcast is going to be picked up by Google now. So if you're talking about Lamborghinis in your podcast and someone types in Lamborghini podcast in the search engine, your show on an individual basis is going to show up. So those are two huge things about podcasting that I wanted to let you know that are relatively new and something that I think we should pay attention to. So my team has launched over 137 shows in the last 18 months. Although that number keeps growing, I should really keep better track of that number. We launched 3 shows last week, and they just keep coming, which is fantastic. So as Janice mentioned, we were top 15 in the Podcast Magazine, their Mother's Day edition for top moms in podcasting. Jenna Kutcher, which was number 1, which is really cool to be up there with her. But what was even more fascinating for me is that we had clients in the number 14 spot, in the number 17 spot, and the number 6 spot. So to me, that was even more really exciting than just our own show being in there, is that 3 of our other clients were in there too. So to me, that was really cool. And as Janice also mentioned, just literally on Thursday, I was awarded the Entrepreneur of the Year from Business from the Heart. Unfortunately, we were awaiting a COVID test in my household, and so I had to cancel my flight to get the award. But I watched them live stream YouTube. Thanks to YouTube again for live streaming. So I was very exciting and super cool to be awarded that. But what my goal for you guys is to not be this guy. So when you think about podcasting, get it all worked up in your head, think about all the things that you have to do. It can seem overwhelming. And I want to break it down to that there's 3 different opportunities in podcasting right now that you could be wanting to do all 3. There could be 1 or 2 that's right for you, or maybe 1. So for myself, I do all 3. Number 1 is being a guest on other shows. I actually flew to San Diego to be on this show, and then in return now I get to be there, manage this show, so which is super cool. But being a guest on other people's shows is a really great way for you to go somewhere where there already is an audience. So if you're not sure about getting your feet wet with podcasting just yet, this is a great place to start being a guest. Number 2 is if you really want to have ownership and control over that content and have the space to speak your message, then podcast hosting is definitely for you. I would just say a combination of the both is for work, but it also is like this beautiful networking key that instead of asking people to go for coffee, now you can invite them to be a guest on your show. And there's all sorts of amazing things that happen before you press record and after you stop recording. It's amazing. So that's how I've really grown my business, is through being a host of a podcast. And of course, my real business is actually managing other people's shows so they can focus on the content themselves. So we do everything after you record, take care of all the details for you. So my story really starts in Europe in 1999. The day after I graduated high school, I was on a plane to live in Switzerland to be an au pair for a family. I thought this adventure was going to be a lot of fun, and it was. I spent all sorts of time traveling around Europe and having the time of my life. Two of my girlfriends from high school decided to come and join me for the last few months of my trip, and we traveled through several countries. Unfortunately, my toes were broken during a volleyball game in Greece. And so one night after dinner, I was feeling a little sore in the feet. So I decided to take the last train home. My girlfriend decided to stay and walk home with some other friends from our hostel. Unfortunately, we got a knock on our door in the hostel that, there's been an accident and we need to go to the hospital. Where when we arrived at the hospital, we found out that our friend had been killed by a train that night. And that set my life on a new trajectory for the rest of my 20s. So I was 19 years old in Switzerland, actually it happened in France, and had to gather her things and gather myself and get back to Canada as fast as I could. So for the next 10 years or so, let's just say I had a lot of fun, because I learned that lesson that day that you don't know how long you have to live and you better make the most of it. So I did. I had a lot of fun, traveled to 47 countries, did every adventure sport, jumped out of lots of planes and did surfing and kayaking, and it was a snowboard tour guide. And let's just say had enough fun in my 20s for a lot of people. And then I met this guy. And it's a good thing that we met here. I met him near the end of my 20s because he had a very stable job that wasn't going anywhere. And he was a very stable, amazing guy. So I fell in love, and we started a family. We took all of our friends and family on a cruise in the Caribbean. There was 50 people that came with us, and we did the Southern Caribbean cruise. And it was such an amazing place to get married, and like a trip like 11 years ago this year that our friends are still talking about. Actually, not 11 years ago, 9 years ago this year. And we got married 11/11/11. So pretty cool, special day. So then we started a family. And this guy came along. And this guy, I love this guy. He's so great. His name's Logan. He's 8 years old today. And when this guy came along, I was already an entrepreneur. I had a fitness business. I had grown it to 8 locations of boot camps across BC, all the way up to Kelowna, which is about a 5-hour drive from here. So I was already an entrepreneur. I had lots of things going on, and I'd then became a mom. I was like, my business brain got a little mushy. Let's just put it that way. So I say today that, podcasting really pulled me out of a little bit of postpartum depression, because one day playing with Logan on the floor, I turned on this Apple TV and saw this purple button. And this purple button led me to some amazing shows of, Amy Porterfield's Online Marketing Made Easy and Jamie Tardy's Eventual Millionaire. And then I realized I could listen in the car. We have this little joke in our family that Logan's our experiment. If he becomes an entrepreneur, it's because I made him listen to so many entrepreneurial marketing shows when he was a baby in the car that he's going to be super smart when he grows up. And then it started with the podcasting dream. This whole time listening to podcasts, I knew there was something there, but I didn't know what I wanted to do my show on. I don't know. What am I going to talk about? I don't know. I eventually figured out that it's podcasting that I wanted to talk about. But in the meantime, had this idea for a podcast, and it's called Are We There Yet? And so I gathered 25 experts in the RV space who I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about RVing, never even been in one. And I decided to interview them and turn it into an online summit. That online summit, at the same time, I created 25 podcast episodes. And when I launched that, the podcast and the summit together afforded us to spend 5 months in an RV. We bought an RV with the money from the summit. And we spent 5 months traveling around Southern California, Nevada, Arizona, and having a blast. So my kids were really young at the time. Kenzie turned 2 in the RV. Logan was 4 at the time. And, or he was 5, just turning 5. He was in kindergarten at the time. We took a break from kindergarten. And these guys still talk about it today. So today we moved from that experience. We had moved off the grid, figured out that life, the Canadian dream that we were supposed to be living, getting a job, going to school, getting married, buying a house was not really the dream that we had envisioned. So we now live a lifestyle where we love and can take a boat to our car. Yeah, why not? And do fun adventures like that. So it was all because of podcasting that was available to us, and because I had the idea of living the life of my dreams. So although my story is, these are some of the shows that we work with today, and I'll just zip through this really quickly because I know I'm running out of time. But I wanted to really leave you with a message today that podcast listeners are loyal, affluent, and educated. They listen to more than 80% of the show. And you have a story. Everyone has a story. My friend Cecilia, she didn't get to tell her story. Do you remember this? This was the girl in Switzerland. So she came to visit me in Europe. She didn't get to share her message with the rest of the world, but you have that opportunity to do so in your life and in your business. Everyone here has a message that's going to make an impact in someone's life. And that's your job to get that message out there in the world. So I'd love to support you in a way of doing that. What's your story? I'd love to know. And so whether that's being a podcast guest or a podcast host, I've got a couple of gifts here for you guys if you want. It's mypodcastcoach.com/gifts. One is about 7 places where you can become podcasters look for guests. So make sure you check that one out. And the other one is 5 steps to create predictable podcast profit on autopilot. So here's all the other places that we can connect. And just want to thank you guys for your time today. And 10 minutes goes super fast, but I hope you learned a little bit more about me and my story. And I love to share it.